Thanks everyone for inviting me to speak today. The subject of flooding and our Icon Water's response to flooding over the last sort of few years, about 3 years actually. And during this period, it included our second major fire, which both those fires were followed by significant flooding. So my name is Michael Harrison. I work within the environment team here at Icon Water in the ACT, and I'm responsible for managing several aquatic monitoring programs. The agenda will be a quick sort of Icon Water, what do we do and how do we do it? We will look at some of our prevention and preparedness in our system, and I'll show a few examples of our response actions and what we've been able to do between 2019 and 2021. And these include a bit of a look at our immediate response actions, including some of those that relate to environmental flow and maintenance services. And then a bit of a look at future implications and what this means going forward. Okay, so who are we? We are Icon Water. We're a small water utility. We service obviously the Canberra and Queanbeyan region. Most of the ACT is locked up in a protected and in a very unique way. So we're very blessed to have the design and the shape of the ACT. We draw from 3 catchments, and we draw from sort of one primary catchment that we draw sort of 80% of our drinking water from, being the aquatic catchment. We are sort of vertically integrated utility, so we deal with drinking water services from catchment to tap, and also wastewater services back into the river. And we're the largest inland sewage. We have the largest inland sewage treatment plant in Australia, so that's quite unique as well. This graph comes from a poll conducted in 2021, customer perceptions poll, and so you can see that the second highlighted category there is improved local waterways and Waterway Health. That's ranked quite highly on the poll, just below helping customers struggle with their water bill. So I think we can all agree it's a pretty important expectation of the community that we are looking after our waterway health. Okay, so in terms of delivering waterway health, we have a few strategies and preparedness models and plans that we use to respond accordingly. First of all, our source water protection strategy, which is at the center of our objectives. The strategy is a 3-pronged approach. Includes monitoring, which is to help build catchment indicators. We have risk management. Obviously, we're dealing with people's health and food and the environment health and the environment's food. We're dealing with stakeholders, so working with everyone to achieve the best outcome. Very much also within the UMCN, talking to land managers who are doing things on the ground. We're not land managers in Icon Water, so we really lean on our ability to talk with land managers and influence good outcomes that way. As with sort of normal quality environmental and safety management systems, we have in place the ACT and region catchment post-emergency recovery plan. And this plan sets out the arrangements with other jurisdictions. And the plan really illustrates how best to respond to events, be it fire, drought or flood, and how best to choose what strategy to encourage sort of natural recovery of a system. Thirdly, we do environmental flows, which is quite unique in the way we do them. So the environmental flows that we have, obviously we have the aquatic catchment, which has 3 reservoirs, and we sort of control the flows from all the dams. So we regulate the intensity and the timing of the flows. We conduct continual riffle and pool flows, and we really try to mimic the natural hydro cycles, because the ACT streams are quite highly variable. So we're able to change these flows, which we think really adds to keeping that river health, and even building resilience in the biological organisms that live in those rivers against floods. So you can see a few graphs there that the of how we define different kinds of flows and how we implement them. So I'll move into a few, what were our challenges over the last 3 years? Well, like many areas around Australia, we experienced, that there was a drought, and after the drought there was a fire, and after the fire there were floods. And this is a cycle that this is not new to us, this is not foreign, this happens quite a lot, and we've gone through this before. In our experiences, mega floods have been associated with mega fires and climate condition. In post-fire conditions, we lost a lot of our ecosystem function, and in large amounts of that soil and sand deposition fell into our rivers and reservoirs. The picture to our right is the same location in the environment below Corrin Dam. You can definitely see that the picture above, obviously pre-fire and pre-flood, and the picture below, you can see a large sand slug forming, which is just, representative of a lot of that steep slope country. There's no vegetation, the soil structure's been lost, and a lot of that sand and soil depositions fallen into that waterway and clogged it up. And that has the ability to change the waterway structure and impact upon vulnerable and endangered fish. Okay, so that moves us into what were our sort of immediate responses that we're able to do post-fire, post-flood. Well, a lot of our response revolved around getting into the fire ground as soon as possible to set up before the next flood. We've learned from the 2003 fire how important it is to implement controls early while the incident response is still open, while the incident phase is still happening, and while resources are still open and available. So initially we were able to use the Army to implement our silt nets, which we established around multiple points around the reservoir, up in the river, but also around our abstraction point. You can see in the photo there. We're also able to sort of implement sort of traditional erosion and sediment controls quite quickly with the use of the Army again. And these were placed in sort of strategic areas around the reservoir, but also work was done in the bog systems as well with the ACT government. So a very key note here too is that we acted quite quickly to amend what is a really important document for us, which is the actions for clean water in the catchment. We were able to quickly provide an addendum to the report that was already done, but we changed the report to include erosion assessments post-fire, which include sort of hazard assessments, erosion assessments, channel, hill slope, erosion risks, all based on protection of water quality. And this document was handed to ACT government as an early guidance system for assessment and recommendations for immediate work. And this helped the ACT government with their rapid response teams conduct sort of early assessments. So that was a part of our contributions to trying to get in there early, try to do the right work, not doing too much because it's quite a pristine catchment. It's gone through fire before, it'll go through fire again. It was really just about choosing the right areas to implement controls and do it quickly before the first flood or before the second flood. Our other tool in our tool belt here at Icon Water that I previously mentioned was our ability to conduct environmental flows, which we use to keep the river health strong. Result of those sand slugs that we previously talked about and that large deposition we started to observe in the river, in partnership with the ACT government, we started to trial a series of pool flows to help move sediment and expose more of that bedrock structure to help the aquatic environment. So a pool flow, for anyone who doesn't know, is a flow greater than 550 megs a day for 2 consecutive days. And then we've also allowed for lower flows called riffle flows, and we practice them during the week just to help push out some of that sediment, push it down through the system, do it in a way that provides a bit of variety. And in that way, we really started to see a lot of that sand and deposition be pushed to the sides and some deeper parts of that river form. So in the Cotter River, some of you might know we do have obligations to protect tooth spine blackfish, and these sand slugs presented a large risk for them to be able to move through the river, through the system. The E-flow variations showed successful movement of the sediment, as the photos show below. We really started to see a lot of that sand be rehabilitated back into the sides of the channel. So I guess in this context, providing E-flows, providing variations, using a flood, almost to fight a flood, in the rivers has helped us take care of that waterway. It's a bit of a success story that we like to highlight, but not all our responses to the flood were as successful. We did learn that we did have a fault in some of our contractual services in terms of maintenance of critical infrastructure. The fire and the floods, a lot of debris was coming down the river. A lot of that debris got sucked into our destratification units. The destratification units are used to make the sort of water column in the reservoirs homogeneous, and helps with too much buildup of metals and keeping dissolved oxygen high in the dam. So our 3 destratification units in the Cotter Dam were broken due to large logs going through them, and our maintenance for fixing these destratification units was a fly-in, fly-out service. So through COVID, we weren't able to get the kind of specialists that we needed to fix these units, which really just put a bit of an emphasis on our monitoring program to make sure that things like dissolved oxygen didn't get too low in the dam, because we do have quarry perch obligations in that dam to keep dissolved oxygen high in the lower water column. Dissolved oxygen gets too low, Macquarie perch can come to the surface and be in danger of being predated on. Ability to sort of choose local contractors with local experience would be is a lesson learned for us. We really found the need and necessity of being able to respond quickly to events. Climate change is a risk multiplier, so it presents a significant challenge to our businesses and the Canberra region. Although our water resources are quite good right now, we will see this cycle again. We will go through it, and we need to be able to prepare and have those systems in place. Once again, the use of local contractors for maintenance of critical infrastructure is now very highlighted. Hopefully we don't go through any more pandemics or get any more new strains anytime soon. And obviously the importance of conducting environmental flows to assist with the impacts of flooding has greatly served us.